Thank you, Twan. Welcome, Douglas County. My name is Kelly Robinson, and I'm the chair of this Transportation Committee of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. Looks like we've got a pretty full agenda here today, and so we're going to go ahead and keep the people's business going. I'm going to start with the first point of order is to establish a quorum by our voting members. So I'm going to go around the room and let's just acknowledge ourselves, our name, and who we are, just for the record, so it's codified. Kelly Robinson, chair of the committee, present.
Phil Miller, chairman of the Board of Commissioners.
Solomon Rana, present.
Ron Roberts, present.
Keith Cowart, present.
That's it. All right. So we do have a quorum based on that number of members. So with that being said, do we have any supporting cast members out there? Is David Good out there?
Yes, Chairman, I'm here.
Is Latanya Ammons, our procurement officer, out there?
She had a conflicting meeting, so she's not here.
Okay. Is there anybody else that's here? It can only be support. If not,
no, we'll have to be support members from Connect Douglas, but they'll be the first on the agenda.
all right, no problem. So let's go ahead and get to the second order of business, which is the meeting minutes and adoption. Director Rana?
We posted the meeting minutes of the September 19th Transportation Committee meeting in the Dropbox. Hopefully everybody got a chance to review. If there are no more questions or additions, I would like to make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as presented.
There's been so moved. Can I get a second?
I second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the meeting minutes of September 17, 2023? With none, I'm going to go around the room quickly again, say your name and your position, yes or no. Or if you weren't here, you can say you abstain. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Phil Miller, yes.
Solomon Rana, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Keith Cowart, yes.
All right, we got a unanimous presence of the vote, and the motion carries to adopt the meeting minutes as is. Director Ron, let's keep going.
Yes, sir. The first item is updates from Connect Douglas. We have 2 presentations from them. I'll hand it over to Director Ron Roberts.
Thank you, Sol.
Thank you, Suleiman. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful day outside. We do have 2 presentations today. The first up is going to be from the collaborative firm, Mrs. Warner. Kathy Warren is here to go over the ridership numbers. And I see that Melanie Barber, who's also helped with our outreach efforts, is attending as well. So we're going to kick it off with this first presentation. Mrs. Warren.
Thank you, Director Roberts. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yes, I'll go ahead and give this brief public outreach update. I'm going to first start with the ridership summary, which deals with the fixed route bus service. So we're going to start by giving a ridership comparison of 2022 versus 2023. If you focus on September last month, we were down about 14% in terms of ridership. We had 2,489 riders versus 2022 ridership was 2,896. However, we were comping over some strong numbers. So if you'll see, we started last year, we had the free ride promotion that started in June, and then it went until the 1st of September, around a few days in September. But when we do this promotion, we always have residual. So it actually did what it was supposed to do. But just keep in mind the numbers that, they're pretty strong as a result of that. If you take a look at January through May, you'll see that we had positive comps for the first 5 months of this year. And then when the free ride promotion kicked off in June, that's when we, were lagging behind 2022. And then in August, you see a spike there, and that was the result of us really pushing that promotion. So that kind of tells the story of what we're up against, but looking at the comparison between the two and the fact that we're comping over some strong numbers, we are in really good shape, actually. We're holding our own. Here you'll see that when you look at the total ridership, 2022 versus 2023, we are still outpacing 2022 with about 1,259 additional riders. So as I said, we're holding our own against some strong numbers that we're comping over. In conclusion, although we had in September about 407 less riders than the same time a year ago, as I mentioned, 2023 ridership still remains strong. I showed you where we experienced positive comps the first 5 months of the year this year, and our total ridership has been outpacing 2022 since January. So we've been leading 2022 for 9 consecutive months. So what that says is that Connect Douglas ridership is still on the move, and no pun intended there. So now we're going to take a look at the September public outreach update. We were really busy in September. We reached thousands of people at the different events that we had our information tables at. The ones in Douglas County, we actually had the Connect Douglas bus there, and we were encouraging people to tour the bus when they came up to our booth. So on the 9th, we attended the Mosaic Multicultural Festival. It was very well attended. On the 22nd, Director Roberts presented about Connect Douglas at the Georgia Planning Association. And as you all know, GPA, it attracts hundreds of people throughout Georgia. So Connect Douglas not only had presence in Savannah, but all of the people who were there at the presentation from all over heard about Connect Douglas. On that same day, we were at a health and wellness festival, and there was about over 200 seniors there. And if you look at the third photo at the top, from the left, starting from the left to right, all of those seniors were in line waiting to get to our table. So Connect Douglas was very popular. On the 23rd, we were at September Saturdays. It was very well attended, as many of you know, and we had so much fun. We reached so many people that we came back the following weekend. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
No. Thank you so much, Kathy Warren. Appreciate your update. So real quick, so again, total riderships from the inception of the program. You got those numbers? Do you know what that number is?
You're talking about from the very start of the program? I can actually calculate that and get back to you, sir. Yeah, I don't have those with me.
No, that's okay. I'm just looking for the aggregation. In other words.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that to you.
And I know it's hard to distinguish unique riders versus, but I'm looking for just total aggregate number. Number of riders since the beginning, please.
Sure, I'll take care of that and send it to you.
All right, we'll keep going. Any questions from any of our committee members before we go to the next presentation? All right, Director Roberts, next up. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy and Melanie. It's good to see both of you. And I did ask them to truncate this one because this next presentation is going to have some content, and I think we're all looking forward to it. I know I am. So Rachel Hatcher's here, with from RS&H to go over the results from the Transit Master Plan to this point and present some things we need to talk about going forward. Rachel?
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you again today. We have quite a lot of slides to get through, so I'm going to go at a somewhat fast clip, but please feel free to interject if there's something we want to spend some more time on. So in today's presentation, we're going to go over the study status for each of the tasks that were assigned as part of this initiative. We're going to talk about next steps and schedule, key engagement and technical findings. So the very important summary of information that we'll use to move into the scenario and service framework development, and finally, next steps in your report. So I hope you all are very familiar with this graphic. You'll continue to see it until the completion of the study. This is the overview graphic that starts with project management plan, moves into the public involvement process and the technical committee process. It evaluates future and existing conditions and results in a technical memo that summarizes those efforts. Then we launch the second phase of transit needs and market demonstration and evaluation of funding strategies. At the completion of those efforts, we begin the next phase of public comment, where we bring out these strategies and these service implementation investments and ask the public to weigh in again. And then that leads us to the final transit master plan with anticipated draft of that report in November of 2023. And then we move into the adoption cycle, which would be December, January 2023-24. And you can see by the green arrow that's entered the screen, we are in those phased recommendations. This is the next graphic on the slide is a project schedule that shows with the green arrow and the yellow highlight that we are in the October timeframe. If you look at the bars across the bottom of the graphic, you'll see that that is initiated and near completion on the transit service recommendations and funding considerations. So those final recommendations will be under development through October and early November. So moving into the next section of the presentation, we're going to go over key engagement and technical findings, and we present those together because those are done intentionally at the same time to give a cohesive understanding of not only what the data shows us and what the technical analysis of system performance shows us, but also where the public is desiring changes that the data can't demonstrate to us. So I start with this very important slide before we get into the findings to say, what questions are we asking this data? And what questions are we asking the public? And those questions set the service strategy framework. So those key questions are, who are we trying to serve? Where is service needed and feasible now as well as in the future? What mode, meaning fixed route, express service, demand response, microtransit, what mode best fits the needs and goals of the community? And what funding is available and how can it be used, which is a really critical element because when you move between areas, say intra-county and extra-county, urban and rural, there are different funding pots that apply that will limit the type of service you can provide. So all of those together, meaning geography, where are you providing that service, user groups, who are we trying to serve and what do they need, the appropriate mode that pairs with that, and those financial resources are all key critical elements to answer questions to before we can get to appropriate service strategy. So this next slide, I know it has a lot of content, but it is a really great summary of all the wonderful work that's been done, not only by RS&H, but by our fantastic sub-consultants. And you can see we've got this in 3 categories. We've got public and stakeholder feedback, existing and future conditions, and operational analysis. There are very detailed technical memos for each of these categories. So, 5 or 6 bullets can't quite do it justice, but the key highlights for each of those include public and stakeholder desire for expanded service hours, particularly earlier in the morning to service employment needs. But some requests for later evening service for entertainment, both in downtown Douglasville as well as at the regional level. Increased frequency of service, meaning some routes run once an hour or a little bit longer, and a request or desire for a compressed schedule where they can catch the bus maybe every 30 minutes in key areas. Enhanced access for seniors and youth. We've heard a lot from both of those targeted user groups about what their specific needs are. Direct access to the airport. Y'all are going to see that several times. We've heard from every group, every stakeholder that there's a strong desire to get direct service to the airport. Improved access to Cobb County, and more direct connections to downtown Atlanta. And last was expanded service to new population and employment centers. So outside of where folks are already making trips, there's a desire for induced demand of trips. For existing and future conditions, meaning the environment in which transit operates. So not the people and not the service, but the land uses and the demand that's established by that. Trip attractors are currently concentrated in Douglasville, East Douglas County, Cobb County, Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and of course the airport. Regional employment travel is significant, and you'll see that on a couple of slides to show you geographically where that distribution lies. East Douglas has the highest concentration of transit propensity as well as future demand. And you'll see growth factors and projections for the years 2030 through 2050 that show that concentration getting deeper. Plans for regional service enhancements do require upgrades to fare system technology and mobility hub infrastructure. So the recommendations that you'll see as a byproduct of these findings will not only be changes in service model, but also changes in policy and changes in the way we collect fares and interface with systems at the regional level. And then last in the existing conditions and future conditions is that rural transit needs are currently not being met. There is demand in the rural areas in the county, and there is no service currently provided. From an operational standpoint, we found that ridership and productivity is lowest for Red Route or Route 30 that operates on the east side of the county near Fulton Industrial Boulevard. The financial analysis shows that there's opportunity for additional grant funding that's available by formula at Douglas County that hasn't currently been applied for. So with new services, there are new by right revenue streams that are not discretionary in nature. They're available for application for Douglas County and would remain in that position. Level of service, frequency, directness, and stop accessibility does not meet existing or projected demands, meaning we've got pockets of population that we could justify faster service, and we have accessibility challenges with some routes that don't have ADA accessible locations. Operational efficiency is consistent with peer system performance, but service levels are lower than peers. That means that the cost of service that we're providing is very efficient, but the amount of service we're providing in comparison to other systems with similar populations and similar demand is lower. So that justifies the suggestion that we need to increase ridership where we see those pockets of demand to meet the level of service that's being provided by your peers. And then data collection software and technology upgrades are critical, both from collecting data as well as providing good, seamless, transparent service to the public. I know that was a lot, so we're going to dig in a little bit deeper to some of the key items on that list. This next graphic shows that we had 1,700 survey responses. I know we've said that in our previous presentations. We were really proud to get a response rate that's higher than statistically valid. So that was a really great job by our team as well as the Douglas County Transit staff to get the word out and get to our peers and get a really fantastic response. So some key findings, the number one purpose for the system, what it should be doing best is providing mobility options for the transit dependent, meaning those who need it the most. 56% of respondents desired more direct connections to downtown Atlanta, 47% desired better connections to Cobb County, and the number one desired destination through the 1,700 survey responses was the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. We did get feedback from a significant cross-section of stakeholders in the community. They weren't as specific, meaning there weren't pickup and drop-off locations that were consistently recommended, but the four key areas of feedback that we received included a desire to have transit-oriented development and growth in density or economic development that's spurred by transit infrastructure around downtown Douglasville. to facilitate access to jobs and reverse the trend of Douglas County workers exiting the county for jobs, and making sure that we're balancing the provision of good regional service with good local service so folks don't feel like they need to leave the county. Ensuring that seniors are a priority, and creating opportunities for the youth to access jobs and schools. So we asked our policymakers in a workshop with Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Robinson. I know you all were very fond of this exercise, so we are really grateful for the feedback we got. We asked some key policy questions. Should Connect Douglas provide transit service outside the county? How should we be thinking about new service models? How should we be thinking about consolidation of existing services in Douglas? What should Connect Douglas be known for? And what does success look like to you? And so the interactive exercise with defining success and telling us as a consultant group what we need to prioritize in our investments, the number one response was connectivity. Making sure we're connecting folks from their points of origin to points of destination, regardless of where those destinations are. So that doesn't necessarily mean that Connect Douglas would provide direct service into downtown Atlanta, but it means finding those key opportunities for transfer with partners and providing direct service where feasible and logical. While also, number two, making the best economic impact with those investments, both in the built environment as well as opportunity for employment. And then we had a tie in third and fourth place for equitable transportation and improving the health of the community. So now we're going to move into the technical analysis findings in more detail. So you can see one key finding, and that's that the transit funding versus the U.S. Census defined areas has an almost even geographical split in Douglas County. You're about half landmass urban, which is shown in the map on the right by the red or pinkish colored area, and that encompasses most of your most densely populated land masses in Douglas County. But you also have this green area on the map that shows your rural areas. And so rural and urban areas have different federal funding mechanisms in place. 5307 urban is only usable in the pink identified areas where you currently operate service today, but there is a 5311 rural funding pot that's eligible for services in the green area. So there's not currently service being provided in that area, but that is a key finding and strategy that you'll see moving into the next stages to meet the demand that was expressed by the public and the technical findings in this green defined rural area, using those funds that are dedicated to Douglas County for provision of that service. The next slide shows you some high-level findings of the peer service analysis. So this looks specifically at the total operating expenses for the fixed route system from 2019 to 2021. And you can see that the yellow line demonstrates Connect Douglas's performance in comparison to your peers. We did pull peers from Georgia agencies in the surrounding region, but we also went outside of Georgia and pulled peers in North Carolina and South Carolina so that we could get a really great cross-section of how agencies that are providing service similar to yours in communities with similar populations that are also adjacent to major metropolitan areas are performing. So some key findings that we pulled out from this graphic: annual operating expenses for Connect Douglas have decreased since 2019. Compared to peer agencies, your system has remained stable since the COVID-19 pandemic when looking at operating expenses. So we see some that have had substantial increases in operational expenses post-COVID-19, and that has not been the case for Connect Douglas. Connect Douglas is operating at the 50th percentile for total expenses in comparison to peers. So there are some that are operating at a lower cost, some that are operating at a much higher cost. You're right there in the 50th percentile. And then when looking at annual unlinked passenger trips from 2019 to 2021, the annual ridership has increased but remained low in comparison to peers. Again, the gold line is with the red arrow in the graphic is pointing to Connect Douglas. Compared to peer agencies, Connect Douglas did remain stable since the COVID-19 pandemic in comparison to those that had substantial ridership decreases. The Greenville area transit was the system that was hit the hardest by the COVID-19 pandemic with a substantial decrease in ridership. That is consistent with national ridership trends. COVID-19 had a tremendous impact on mobility and ridership for all systems in the country. But Connect Douglas, in comparison to these carriers, is a very new system that is still establishing base ridership. So it was very early in the infancy of the system that COVID-19 hit. And since we did not yet get the full release of 2020 NTD data, which is needed for us to compare to peers, we decided to do a deeper dive into your request, Commissioner Robinson, looking at the ridership from inception of the system to current. And this graphic I know is a lot to chew on, but it is detailed ridership by month from June of 2019 to September of 2023. So you can see the natural ebb and flow of ridership, which is anticipated to occur because there's fewer operating days, weather tremendously impacts ridership. But you can see these key boxes colored on the screen where there are changes that occurred in the system that would impact ridership. So implementation of the system began June 2019, then the care plan route implementation didn't come online until January of 2020. So you see a slight uptick in ridership for that new service model that came in. Then COVID-19 was announced March 2020, and you can see the immediate drop off in ridership that is sustained until May of 2022. So not until June of 2022 did you start to see that significant rebound, which is when, per the previous presentation, Kathy set me up for this one, I appreciate it, the free ride promotion initiative began, and you can see that substantial jump in ridership that peaked in August of 2022 and then normalized. And then we implemented yet another route, Route 40A, that came online December of 2022. So you can see an additional uptick in that baseline ridership after the implementation of that route. So you do see some variability in ridership. Year over year, you'll see some fluctuations, but we did dig in a little bit deeper to see what the perhaps downtick in ridership for the last couple of months could be caused by, and it coincides precisely with an uptick in COVID cases. So we know we've heard everyone saying, oh, we've got another outbreak. That outbreak was in its highest concentration in September. So I expect that we'll probably continue to see these ripple effects on ridership, but to Ms. Kathy's point, we are absolutely at stronger numbers and continuing to grow over baseline. So our next slide shows our most highly utilized stops for the whole system. We've picked the top 5. Those include the Multimodal Transfer Center. We've got all routes converging there, with the exception of 30 that stays out. So 10, 20, 40, and 40A, and that is your most highly utilized stop. The West Douglas Park and Ride is second. We not only have express service to both the Multimodal Center and the West Douglas Park and Ride, but routes 20, 40, and 48 also service that West Douglas Park and Ride location. The third most utilized stop is at Thornton at Interstate West Parkway, and that is only serviced by 40 and 48, which are your highest ridership rides when combined. And then fourth is Autry Circle at Avalon. Only Route 10 services that location, and Concourse Parkway, which is routes 10 and 20. So you can see that's good geographical distribution, but all very close to downtown Douglasville. So you're getting your most successful ridership opportunities all in that most densely populated area of your community, which shouldn't be terribly surprising. The next series of slides, we're going to go a little bit more quickly through, but they are very important. These are teeing us up to look at U.S. Census data through a lens specific for transit, and that's transit propensity and transit market analysis findings. So the map on the right-hand side is demonstrating concentrations of zero vehicle households. And we did this same evaluation and have detailed maps in the technical memo that was circulated for each of the categories on the screen, including those with zero vehicle households, median household income below the federal poverty level, low income households, supplemental security income by age. Those who are seniors and youth are typically more likely to ride transit. By race and ethnicity, population density, and employment density. So using all of those individual maps, we did create a composite map. And that composite map uses those key characteristics to find concentrations of population in your community most likely to need and utilize transit. So you can see we have summarized those pockets that are most promising for at least hourly fixed route service in the Bill Arp Road and South Burnt Hickory Road between I-20 and US 78, Lithia Springs around I-20 and Georgia 6, Douglasville to the east and northwest of downtown, and Douglasville along the southern border of the county. So you can see those highlighted on the screen with the various concentrations. The highest is demonstrated in green, and then progressively towards the burgundy color. So then we applied a density factor. In this graphic, I know it's a lot going on, but to summarize the important takeaways, transit service models are influenced by the number of people living and working in an area. So if you have more people, your ability to utilize a higher intensity service model will be more successful. So if you have low density suburban land development, you're more likely to see rideshare or on-demand service with 60-minute or longer headways. If you are in a downtown area with high-density corridors, you could be looking at much more intense modes such as bus rapid transit or higher frequency local bus, and at varying levels from 1 hour to 15 minutes, depending on how densely populated your job and employment land uses are. So the greater the density, the greater the frequency and intensity of models. So when we look at the adjusted population density in the next slide, you'll see that the transit index factor multiplied by the unadjusted population density highlights areas in your community where you could receive hourly transit service or more frequent transit service. So those deeper purple colors where I think this wouldn't be a terribly surprising slide, that's adjacent to your existing service areas are your most densely populated and employed. So the center and northwest of Douglas County have a density that supports at least 60-minute transit service headways for fixed route. When looking at the employment densities in the next graphic, you'll see that downtown Douglasville and strip shopping centers along Georgia 6 at the northeast Douglas County have employment densities that support that 30 to 60-minute fixed route service headway. And then adjacent block groups to the east and Arbor Place Mall could support the 60-minute service where we currently have service provided. It is also important to note that we're looking at population and employment statistics for Douglas County, but you have a significant regional transportation pattern. So this next graphic you have seen in previous presentations, it shows where Douglas County residents are currently working per U.S. Census data. You can see some significant concentrations in Cobb County, Fulton County, along the Fulton Industrial Boulevard corridor, and then those two pockets of employment densities in Douglas County and East Douglas and near Douglasville are consistent with those that you see in the previous map. So it's important for us to also keep in mind, in addition to those local travel densities, we have this significant regional demand. So when looking at a local Douglas County data composite demand analysis, you can see a significant area around Villa Rica and Douglasville and Austell supporting 60-minute fixed route service, and then concentrated areas around downtown Douglasville and Georgia 6 can support more frequent service than currently provided. And then overlaying that with your current service corridors and the CERTA Express bus route, most of Douglas County's urban area can support 60-minute local fixed route service. Some pockets could be 30 minutes based on their demand. Existing Connect Douglas Express service covers a significant portion of the existing transit service demand. However, there is also some demonstration of local service demand in those areas. And then regions south of Douglasville and around Villa Rica do not currently have transit services, but do have demand for fixed route service. So then looking at the 2030 projected growth from the ARC travel demand model, you can see areas highlighted with population growth include Billerica, North Douglasville, South Douglasville, next to Miller Farm Airport, and then the Kings Highway corridor. And then when you jump to the 2050 projected, you can see those concentrations deepen. Downtown Douglasville north of US 78, Bell Ark Road area, the southern part of Douglas County between Highway 92 and Chapel Hill Road. Billerica deepens in demand, and then Capps Ferry Road near Foxhole Resort. So we'll flip back so you can see the previous slide, and then again where you can see the concentrations deepen in those areas. Then looking at the 2030 projected growth for employment, using the same ARC model for 2030, employment concentrations pop out in Billerica, Douglasville, Lithia Springs, Fulton Industrial Boulevard, and Thornton Road Industrial Area. And then looking to the 2050 projected growth, the additional growth is for the most part consistent with the 2030 growth areas, with US 78 corridor between Billerica and Douglasville showing a significant jump from 2030 to 2050. So then looking at a composite of the population and employment for 2030, you can see those areas that are demonstrating greatest growth are consistent with today's demand. Just the demand gets more intensified, so you could justify faster service. And then the same would be true for 2050, with the exception that small pockets of demand can accommodate higher frequency of service near I-20 near Lithia Springs and along US 78 near US 92. So revisiting the slide that we described in detail in the beginning of this presentation, who are we trying to serve? Where is service needed and feasible now and in the future? What mode best fits the needs and goals of the community, and what funding is available and how can it be used? We've used the information both from a data standpoint and the public to fill in those gaps to help us move towards transit service strategies. So the geography is urban Douglas, rural Douglas, and key regional connections. Our user groups that are our focused user groups are seniors and the youth, transit dependent riders, and choice riders that are making regional trips and causing traffic congestion. Our modes will include fixed route, on-demand, microtransit, and shuttle recommendations, as well as improved connections to other providers. And our financial sources will be a blend of current sources being utilized that are federal, state, local, and private funds. So those will all be used to develop transit service strategies that will be developed into our next steps, which includes short-term, mid-term, and long-term recommendations that will follow the goals that you all have established for us. And those goals are to eliminate, enhance underperforming services, expand service to meet demand, maximize existing infrastructure and partnerships, enhance operational efficiency, and increase service accessibility. So those will be the key factors that we'll be testing all of these strategies against to come up with the best short-term, mid-term, and long-term recommendations for this. So key strategies that you'll look forward to seeing in those recommendations include shifting service modes, where perhaps in some areas you're operating fixed route service but it's underutilized. There may be a shift to a different mode that's more appropriate for the population and employment in that area. Investments in service flexibility, speed, and access. So expanding operating hours could be a recommendation you see come forward. Microtransit and rural services in areas that are currently not serviced but are demonstrating substantial demand. And then strengthening of regional connections. So improved access to the airport, where we say strategies, we may say that can be solved in a lot of different ways, but what's the best return on investment and the best connectivity for the public? So you'll see strategies and recommendations for those key findings. Then connections at cobbling stop stations and improved motor connections. So I'm going to pass the torch over to Katrina. Are you still on? Or Melanie? Melanie, you're on. Yep, there you go.
I am on. Yes. Thank you, Rachel. Hi. Okay. Thanks. So as Rachel mentioned early on in the presentation, we had a very productive first phase of our engagement, right? And so based off those recommendations of our first phase, we have created a very robust plan to move forward in this second phase of our engagement process. So first we have our stakeholder committee meeting that has been confirmed for the end of this month. And so we're looking forward to great engagement like we had during our first phase, and targeted community outreach. As we know, and we've had several conversations around this as well as the outcome of our commissioner workshop, but we have identified our target community outreach and our digital and social media engagement. We have already been in conversation with the communications team, and so we have a great plan of a path forward for our second phase of engagement, which will start within the next couple days. And then lastly, we have our public meetings. So between the dates of November 1st and the end of November, we have identified several different engagement initiatives that we are looking forward to participating in. And we have found, even with the first phase of engagement, being with the people, engaging with the people, having conversations has been one of the most productive ways for us to collect the best feedback. So some of our outreach tactics, this is a high level overview of our strategic approach. And I will say before moving forward that we are still under evaluation of a few of these proposed initiatives of our strategic approach, but we can anticipate a lot of what we're going to go over on this to be the final outcome of our second engagement phase. And so first we have our goals. Our strategic pillars have been used from the very beginning of our project, which is to educate, engage, and inform. A presence throughout Connect Douglas County. I know Commissioner Robinson, you said very, very early in this project phase, making sure that there's no district that is not hit. And we have hit every single district through our beginning stages, and we're looking forward to making sure we continue to hit all 4 districts. Targeted and equitable outreach to key users. Investment scenarios presented in accessible formats. So as some of you all may remember, we utilize QR codes on our hand cards, making sure that people had strong accessibility to get to our surveys. And we're doing the same thing with that method and making sure that people have easy access to get to our comment and feedback cards. Now we can go over to methods, email, newsletter, Douglas County happenings. That's something that we've already talked to the communications team about. Our social media postings, Connect Douglas Facebook has been very, very strong with our outreach, making sure that the broadest range of Douglas County residents were reached. And press release, media alerts, project webpage. The project webpage has been a great source for residents of Douglas County to continue to go back to find all project webpage. And our literature drops. That's something that we're working with Arbor Place Mall now and other areas that were identified in the study area that were high traffic volume areas and where the residents are actually going to be. And we also wanted to make sure that since transit riders are a big, big part of who we are targeting, that we're actually at the stops. And we're working closely with the Connect Douglas Multimodal Transit Center to make sure that we're actually there with the people that are waiting at these routes. Pop-up events, that's what we've done in the past, and we're going to continue to make sure that we're identifying events within those months that I mentioned within November 1st and the end of November. And an open house that we're still in discussion about, and we will make sure that whatever is confirmed on here, we will get this information out to everybody on the call. And then lastly, the materials that are used. We have an event flyer that is both in English and Spanish. We have a digital and a print form. And we have found that visual boards have been a great way to make sure that we're staying engaged and that people have an interactive activity to do so we can identify where people are, what zip codes they're coming from, and where we're hearing the most push from. And then we have a project fact sheet that we've utilized throughout the duration of the project, which is a high-level overview of project history, how can they learn more, and most importantly, how can they stay connected to the project. QR codes, I mentioned that earlier. That's been a great way to get people straight to the feedback or the survey cards. So those are just some of the high-level tactics that we're using during this phase of our engagement. And Rachel, I can take it back to you.
Thank you. So our next section of the presentation goes over planned adoption strategies. So some key dates that are echoing some of Melanie's feedback. Between October and November, so the next several weeks, we'll have a Transit Master Plan Technical Committee meeting. So this information is brought forward to you first as the Douglas County Transportation Subcommittee. But the study itself has a technical committee that brings in the regional providers from a technical perspective to make sure that we're bringing in the perspectives of Douglas County, the ATL, and other partners, as well as a Transit Master Plan Stakeholders Committee meeting. So those will occur the last day of October, or October 30th rather. Then we'll move right into the 30-day public comment period with public engagement and draft report submittal occurring in November. And then between December and January, we'll have a final presentation to the technical subcommittee, commission adoption, and then an ATL presentation once the commissioners have approved the recommendations of the study. So we do have a key question to present to you all today, and we don't have to reach consensus in this presentation, but it will be something that Mr. Roberts will be bringing back to you all. And that is the role that this committee plays in the adoption process prior to presentation to the full Board of Commissioners. So we have two scenarios. The scenario on the left gives this role a greater opportunity to review findings after the closure of the 30-day comment period before final recommendations are brought to the Board of Commissioners, i.e. allowing this group to vet the full recommendations and provide recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. Scenario 2 is an expedited scenario, and it provides for adoption in December rather than January, which is more consistent with the ATL's ARTP report adoption, which occurs in December. So that was originally a request made by the ATL to expedite the delivery of this product to go inside with the ARTP. But given some of the changes in leadership, there was a slight delay in the beginning of the study. So we are in a position where we would love and recommend for scenario 1 to be the scenario we consider, which is to present to you all again in November, where you get to see the material that is being circulated to the public, and then a final presentation to this body in December, which would provide all the feedback that was gathered from the public and final recommendations, and then have you all provide recommendations or pass that report along to the full board at their next meeting for consideration. So we asked this group to provide guidance to us on that, about the role that this technical subcommittee will be playing in the adoption process, and the iteration of meetings you all would like to see this information in prior to being presented to the Board of Commissioners. And if this is something we'd like to discuss in this meeting, we're open to that, but if you'd like to provide that direction to Mr. Roberts after this meeting, we will absolutely take that direction.
Yeah, let me frame this. I think the goal always was, sort of have a calendar year. That was just sort of an overall goal. Recognize that you had to lay this out formally. And so now we're backing into the formal schedules with the ARC, ATL. I got it. But Mr. Chair, I've always been sensitive on something like this big. I get the importance of a committee, but I want my peers to say at the same time I get it. So I would be okay with sort of, passing this committee. Now I hear you're going to do it one time, but you don't have to keep coming back to this to sort of screen it. Get to it. Show our peers all at once that we can see this, because it touches the whole county. There's no more advantage to having it in the committee on this topic than the full board. But that's just me. I can go either way. So I'm going for 2 versus 1, but I'm okay. Let me think about this, because there was a lot you just hit us with. And then you're going to ask if this is okie doke. But Mr. Chair, you got any thoughts, sir? I mean, they're not binding us, but I'm just saying, I'm always on something like this. I'd rather put for the full board. That's just me.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. When these people recommend scenario 1, I have a tendency to want to do what they want to do since they're so involved. But I'm okay either way also, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, but to your point, so you will say y'all want to go to scenario 1, but the ARC, ATL, we would prefer 2. So I'm looking at the conflict
We
between.
absolutely support scenario 2, Mr. Commissioner. We are at the disposal of this group. So if there is no formal recommendation required from the technical subcommittee, then scenario 2 is the most logical path to follow. If we needed a formal recommendation from this committee, scenario 1 would be the preferred. But given that there will not be a required recommendation from this body, I would concur with you that scenario 2 to expedite and to put the ACL is a fantastic option.
Yeah, I'm trying to align with the region. I'm trying to align with upstairs. So if they're looking for like, well, we would prefer you guys get this done by the end of the year. I'm like, okay, so what's prohibiting that? let's work together. Let's align. So there's your guidance.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So that's all I have for you from the current status. Your next presentation will come in November, and that will be your final presentation where you'll see the recommendations that are being presented to the public, so you're aware of them. And then the presentation to the Board of Commissioners will be scheduled for December. I'll work with Mr. Roberts on deciding whether or not that November meeting will be to the full board or the technical committee. So I'll follow your guidance on which body should receive that update before action is requested in the December meeting. So we want to make sure I give the best opportunity to the Board of Commissioners to feel prepared for that action item in December. So we'll follow your direction and guidance on that, and Mr. Roberts will be following up to get specific information. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
You know, excellent job, ladies. I mean, you're looking at this this is not their technical background. But I'm going to yield to my peers. Any thoughts, guys? Well, one thing, Director Roberts, can you ensure we get at least the committee members get a copy of this, please?
Absolutely. In fact, we've already sent Director Rana and Pam copy or link. I think that's what the plan is. This file's so big, it's just a link on BISCM that they can access so they can have it, and for the record. So yes, we're working on that and already thought about that. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. No, I mean, I saw the, you know, I gotta really reflect on this, but I heard it's what we already knew to a certain extent, what we sort of knew where the concentration, where the demand was, where there were some opportunities out west. Mirror Lake got it. Different. Now, the key thing I do want to just push on just a little bit. So think about Mirror Lake or Billerica, as we call it, out west. That's rural area. So you get out there, I mean, can we use existing funds that we're currently using on the fixed route? But I heard you say, well, you really can't. You have to have their own funding source out there for that. Talk to us about that, because at the end, it's going to come down to funding.
That's right. That's a very astute point, and the reason that we're pushing so hard in identifying funding sources available for service outside of their urbanized area. So the 5311 program was established for rural areas and urban clusters. Billerica was previously considered urban in the 2010 census. 2020 pulled it out of the urbanized area. So there's an identification and a demonstration of demand and population growth, but that funding stream is the line in the sand. So we'll be evaluating your 5311 funds for the best use of those, and that can be used for either microtransit or demand response. So it will likely demonstrate a service provision for fixed route until that area is considered urban, but you can provide services and good services to areas outside the urbanized area. One other nuance, and I know this is getting very detailed, if you are operating fixed route transit service inside an urbanized area, you can stop once outside of that service area. So let's say there is a strong, significant demand for Billerica to get into Douglasville. At some point in the future, your system can go out to Billerica and turn around and come back with express service. It just can't make multiple stops there. So we've got a lot of tools in our tool belt that we're evaluating for efficiency and financial return on investment to make sure we're providing the best possible service for the money that's available. So we'll be looking at each of those opportunities for service provision to Billerica and finding what fit under different budgets.
No, so this is perfect. And again, it's back to educating the public. I'm glad they're participating in this process. That it's you got to have some data on this. All right, we're at Tele2 cities. The east looks more like Cobb and Fulton, the west looks more like Carroll and Paulding. Rural and urban, they coexist, but they still have needs, but you approach them differently. Little salt, little pepper. And it's clear, like, okay, got it. All right, so there is a path forward. And I think this will clarify some understanding or misunderstandings about how we've approached this so far. We've learned a lot during this planning, this pilot program, and especially this exercise that now we can recalibrate. Now, Ron, you'll have your plan going forward and how we approach the overall objective of mobility for everybody. There are different needs out here. Everybody doesn't just live in Douglas. Some people actually want to live in Douglas but work over somewhere else. How are they gonna get there? Right? I mean, we're society moves. It doesn't just stay in a bubble. It migrates. It's going where the money at. It's going where they can make their families better by having higher paid jobs. So this is important to sort of invest in our infrastructure. I mean, this is a very, very important exercise. I mean, I don't want to let any citizen not have the option. It's about the option for mobility. You talked about one income and one car, no car. That's key. You talk about vulnerable populations, the seniors and the youth. That's key. Like, now, how are we as leaders, how are we going to approach this? Right? And it requires an investment, a deliberate, intentional, knowing that's important. Like, no, people got to move. You don't want to be in solitary confinement. Don't move. Don't go nowhere. Just sit here. No, you. That's not the pursuit of happiness. And so we've got a responsibility, but we need the data to make this type of investment. So I appreciate what you guys are providing for us. But I'm going to yield right now because we got the rest of this agenda. Mr. Chair, any of our committee members, y'all want to weigh in? I know we got to think about this, but there's nothing we can do right now. They just want to give us an update. But please, if you got any questions, feel free to ask.
Well, I certainly agree with you. Great presentation. As you know, I'm fairly new at this, and I've got a lot to learn about a lot of things, including public transportation. And I'm going to learn more about it, and that's going to help us make decisions in the future. But to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what the needs are in East Douglas County. I know there would be a much more of a need for public transportation over in that area. Most everybody in the west part of the county, they have cars and they want to live outside the city. That's their desire, and I think public transportation would be very limited in those areas.
I would agree with you, Commissioner, that our chairman, my apologies, what we heard back from the public from those areas specifically was they were having challenges with providing the type of transportation needed when they are, let's say, at work and they have a senior parent living in the home with them that would like to go to have their hair done or go to the grocery store while they're away. And so it would be more limited, i.e. a more limited type of service that's demand response that requires advanced reservation. You don't deploy the bus unless there is a demand for it that day. But there were stated needs for seniors and youth in particular, where they have a two-parent working household that are fairly affluent, but they have dependents that have transportation challenges that don't need them every day, but when they need them, they're not able to meet those needs. So I agree with you. The demand is quite different and the needs are quite different. So finding that customized solution for those members of the public who are most vulnerable, who are dependent on these, primary household breadwinners, those attached dependents, and some of those others that are low income minority in those areas that are not the majority population, are the targeted population we'll be looking for.
Thank you. I think we as a government have to decide just how much we're willing to invest in this kind of transportation. And I don't think that we can be all things to all people, but the people that need it, that really need it in order to get to work or get to the doctor's office or maybe even the grocery store. I'm interested in helping in that regard. I guess you'd say the jury is still out as far as the people that live out in the counties. I'm not there yet where we should provide any kind of transportation. I guess micro transportation, your definition of it would be some kind of Uber type facility, and not necessarily an Uber, but an automobile to pick up somebody and take them to a direct location. Is that correct?
Microtransit, the way I like to describe it is that it is demand response with an app. It's the same method of providing service that we've always had. It's just a mechanism to schedule your trips more efficiently and to group those trips. So yes, like an Uber or Lyft, but the public transit version of that.
I got you. Okay. Well, thank you. I just got a lot to ingest, and I'm getting there, but bear with me, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I look forward for the whole board having this conversation. This is going to get good. You got two different beliefs in how life should operate out here. The data doesn't lie, but at the end of the day, yes, we have to take a position on this. And so there'll be, and I hear the conflict out west. On one hand, they're saying all that we need it out here, and I'm also hearing we don't want it out here. So that's a conflict within itself. Right. Okay. So where are y'all going? All right. And so you got to reconcile that. Rural is different than urban. Nobody's trying to impose it. It will coexist, but it's like, okay, well, either you want it or you don't. And so you have to. And if the voice out of the West is, well, we don't want that out here, that means some of the citizenry, their needs are not going to get met. Now, as leaders, we got to recognize, do we need somebody out there? But again, it's almost like the last mile with this internet and cable and stuff like that. Yeah, there's some people you're not going to reach. But how do we close that gap with some, as she said, some custom solutions? Says, no, but we need to be thoughtful. We just can't say and just take the norm. It is those people who are on the outer edge that you got to fight for. Those people who are not in the rooms like us to say, well, look, yeah, we got options, but what about them? The ones that really need it. I mean, we also represent their voice, their tax dollars, their voice. So I look forward to that's what I'm saying. No, we don't want to do this in a committee. I'd rather have this conversation with my full peers because we do. The chairman's dead on point. You got to stop this. So I'm with you, Mr. Chair. We'll see how this works out. Guys, if there's no more questions from our committee members, we're going to go ahead and keep this going. Again, ladies, excellent job. Ron, well done. Make sure we get linked to everybody. And
yes, sir.
You got another comment, sir?
No, I just I was agreeing with you. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. All right, Director Roberts, thank you. Thank your team and stuff, and we're going to keep this going. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Rachel.
Look forward to Melanie.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, ladies.
All right. Director Roberts, anything else before we go back to Director Rana? That's it?
That was our two presentations, Chairman. Commissioner, and that's it for today. We've got plenty to think about just based on that.
Yes, sir. No, appreciate you. Good work. Director Rana, keep us moving.
All right, thank you. Next up is updates from Public Works, and for that we have Heath with us. So Director Carver, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Chairman, commissioners, fellow directors. So for time's sake, I've got a full brief. Sir, you want me to go through it all, or you want me just to hit with let's say transfer station fire first and get the big ones out of the way? Doesn't matter, mate. Just if you're trying to condense, I can do that.
Yeah, just keep us brief. Go right ahead. We can dig with our questions. You know how we do. You go ahead.
I got you.
All right. Yes, sir.
So, okay. Well, last Thursday night we had a fire start at the transfer station. This was the old transfer station that we've been requesting, and the chair has the board, has approved a new facility to be built out of funds from SPLOST 2022. So that was a good thing, and it started rolling. Still in the infancy planning stages of it, and this happened, and we've had to speed up a little bit. So this fire took place, and we have a cause of fire from the state. Fire inspector came out, looked at it, and he said it was determined it was about 6 bags of grass, yard clippings in trash bags that Holton moisture in there, and with the weight and the heat of the other trash, it took about an hour and a half after we closed Thursday night, and for an ignition, and when it did, it's like a wind tunnel kind of in there right now, and it just blew it. And it was perfect conditions for a blaze, and within 10 minutes, it was uncontrollable. My guy was called, and my own call personnel was called. He reported there, and it was already completely engulfed in flames. Fire department came right afterwards. You know, they were great. We had terrific response out of all the county first responders, and thank God we didn't need anybody to. There was no injuries that happened there. The building is still standing tall. I swear to you, sir, it will not die. You can't kill this thing. It's amazing, but it has been deemed not safe. And again, thank goodness, but we're not released to do anything with that. So I was forced to, shut down MSW completely and turn everybody away. I gave them the two closest locations, and Paulding County being one, and in Douglas County, West Side Transfer Station on 78, right behind the VFW. So their prices are higher. So this is not a good news thing for our citizens and or us, but we have to do what we have to do, and we're going through there as fast as we can, making sure everybody is notified, gets in, looks at it, puts eyes on it, right? Gets everything properly documented and sent off, and that's where we're at now. I did open up like a makeshift MSW portion where the citizens can come and start dumping again. I did this yesterday evening and had like just a soft opening for it to see how it's going to go, kind of work out kinks as we go, because unfortunately that's the way you gotta figure things out sometimes on the run. So that's what we were doing. Continue to do that all day today. We have a system in place that is working. However, it will not facilitate our trash can, our large commercial customers. So we are able to provide, starting today, full services to citizens, and it's just going to be at a slower and a smaller amount, 500 pounds or less per vehicle, and I have people standing by to help them. They won't be responsible for getting their trash from the back of the truck into the trailer. It's a little bit higher. We have a bulldozer sitting right there with the bucket open, and they can load it into that. If they can throw it over, they throw it over into the open top container, and away they go. So on average, we went from 500 transactions a day to today at 175. So we were at the faucet was cut off, and now we're servicing as much as we can handle at this point, and we're trying to provide as much relief as possible. All at the same time, expediting this whole process and really leaning forward on trying to get the RFPs out for the new transfer station, the design. The RFP is sitting is back with LaTanya in purchasing, and she's been working hard on it. Everybody has, and it's there for her final. I think she reached out to James Engineering to take a look at it before we push it forward. So that's as far as it's ever been. So I'm excited about that. Looks good, and right now we're just told to, we can't go back into that building, so keep operating as we are. And any ideas are being answered or being, considered at this time as far as how can we better serve our community. So,
Yeah.
Any questions, sir?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I was not aware that we had a fire. That's major.
Yes, sir.
That it was not communicated, at least to my office or the board in general. Second, you have trailers out there right now. Think about
Yes,
it.
sir.
This is the second time this didn't happen. Mr. Chair, this is like this. This is hitting the nerve, but he knows that I'm on his side. Like, okay, wait, so fleet building burned down. The old fleet building that we had and with a fire, and we're supposed to replace that. Now we got this transfer station. Now both of them are old. They're aged. And we know this. And like he said, yeah, this like the Iron Giant. This thing ain't gonna go down. But been saying it's a public safety hazard. Just an operational safety. Won't say public. Operational safety. Guys, look at the work condition in there. You keep patching on this thing. We'd have had at least 2 times we could have had that thing been built. Now we're in an emergency situation. It's like, okay, I'm just sitting here like, get from out of these dilapidated. You got to invest in your infrastructure. We got our employees sitting in these things that like, yeah, come on, guys. So all right, I'm gonna let that go. I just had to say on the record, we supposed to been beyond this. I'm glad that y'all are working on it. But yeah, right, you're sitting on funding. The public already gave you the money. Why this thing ain't in the air? But I get it. I'm glad I hate it took a fire to put a fire under this thing.
Yes,
To
sir.
like move on. I mean, get it done. You got people out there that would love to get a contract and get stuff done. We just sit there with the administrative hold for what? Make a decision. But that's good. All right. So do we have any insurance on this? Is it totally gone? I mean, how does that work?
Yes, sir. Insurance has been out several. I've had 3 different meetings with insurance, and risk and safety has been on top. They've been on point as well. They've been out here every day, and giving me heads up of who's coming and when, and if, what they need. And I've made myself available to be here to answer their questions, walk them through, and try and ask questions at the same time. So they are, at this point, I believe they're saying this is a total loss. The actual paperwork of it won't go through. It takes a little while to go through. It sounded like some red tape, but they said that we're not allowed to go back in that building, or to work in that building right now. So as soon as they give us actual permission to rebuild, then we can actually tear down, is the plan, because we're not gonna rebuild, obviously. So we're trying to get this design out and back to where we have some takers, and hopefully we can put all this thing together. Both the money that we have in the bucket set aside for it, and the insurance money as well. What insurance will pay for is what goes back, what we had, nothing. So of course it would be at this current time, what would the amount it would take to pay to build exactly what we had brand new. So that should be a substantial chunk of it. But as you remember, the plan for this transfer station is 3 times the size. It's a lot bigger. It's going to be more, but still, that's great. We have insurance, and so far everybody's been working. I can't complain about any of those guys. They've come out here and walked through it, sifted through it, and been open with me and transparent. So, and we've been the same with them. So there's no fault been blamed to anybody that worked for the county or the actual facility. It's just the unknown. It's hard to. You cannot check and screen every piece of trash that goes in there, especially in the way that it was. Maybe a newer facility laid out, maybe that's possible if you had additional personnel to screen it as it got put in. But there's absolutely no fault blame. It's just one of those. He's seen it happen before. There's no way prove that's exactly it, and there's no way to disprove it, is the way his words.
Do we have any?
Say less right now.
I'm sorry.
No, hold on. No, say less about that. Leave that, let that insurance, that really wasn't my point. I just want to know, was there an offset or some additional cash? I know we got money set aside for the building. I'm fine. I get your daisy chain that you're doing for the public right now to ensure that they can hand off into the bulldozer up to the big machine. That's fine. That sounds like that's an 18-month, it's gonna take you 18 months to get through this. Maybe a year. You just had a design. So think about the impact. So I'm back to where's communication to the public, like, guys. This ain't what you're gonna have to go outside, just pay more now. Because again, we're gonna be able to handle so much during this right now. So all your commercial providers, I just want to make sure that we've got an adequate communication to the public about, all right, here's what happened, but here's what you got to do, and this is the impact. That's material. People got to now go in a different direction. They got to alter how they deal with MSW or anything else that's related to that they're not already dealing with. So just that point, just communication needs to be more transparent and be honest and tell them. Because again, I'm stunned, but I'm okay. You got this. Move forward. I won't belabor the moment because you're on it. Mr. Chair, go ahead, sir. Weigh in.
I was just going to ask, and I think you answered it. Do we have preliminary plans or plans already drawn for the new transfer station?
No, sir, we do not. That is a design build, and it is, so this first phase is design, which is actually what they would produce, and it is sitting there ready to go. Maybe a couple of critiques, we get a few signatures, and that's off.
Let us know how we can help. Also, Commissioner Robinson, I have 2 appointments before our commission meeting, so I'm going to have to leave here shortly. So just let me know.
I got this from here. I understand, sir. I'm gonna see you soon. I get it. All right, Director Howard, come on, let's keep going, guys. And real quick, give me a time check. What time is it, guys? Because I also got to be going here in a minute.
3:16.
All right, I've got less than 45 minutes. I got 45 minutes. All right, keep going.
I'm gonna close it up with, fleet. We're off the landfill. Everybody's good. Everybody's okay. We're continuing to march as fast as possible out here and service the community. Fleet, we are, they've been taking in some orders of vehicles, working with departments who were able to get some vehicles ordered, and we're starting to get some of those slowly in for DOT. We're still having trouble with the specialty vehicles, and we're trying all aspects, every avenue we can think of to find, when I say specialty, like a dump truck, bucket truck, that kind of nature. And we're just scouring everything, looking for it. It's slow, but it's moving. And then same with DOT, our mowing, we're on the 7th cycle. We got 8, so there's another complete cycle after this. As you can tell, the grass has already started to slow down a significant amount of growing, so this is going to be perfect. I do believe LaVon really hit that number right on the head as far as what we would need to maintain the county the way you want it maintained. Same with the litter. We are out picking up litter, same amount of time. We've done the 2023 resurfacing. That is complete, and that's a total of just under 5.5 miles total is what we did this year. And yeah, if any questions, that's all I have that's pertinent right now, sir.
No, great report. Thank you always for the data and the accuracy. And so just keep it going. I'm good. Any questions from any of the committee members? All right. Thank you, Director Howard. Director Robert, keep us going, sir.
Yes, sir. We'll head to Department of Transportation updates. The first item we have on the agenda is installation of an advanced warning flasher located at Legacy Park Drive off of Old D Road. Upon a complaint, we investigated the site conditions. Everybody can see a display on their screen that shows that as you approach Old Lee Road coming out of the Legacy Park subdivision, site distance is inadequate, and it's I think over 100 feet short of what it should be. Therefore, this is a safety hazard, and it requires us to put in safety measures in place to prevent any accidents, and that is why we're recommending advanced warning flasher at this location.
Okay. Is there a cost, or is this something that we administratively would operationally take care
Yeah,
of?
so we'll just, the board just approves the control method, and we'll foot the bill from our budget.
All right. So you want to make a recommendation on this so we can
Yes,
move
sir.
this forward?
I make a motion that this committee recommends installation of an advanced warning flasher at Legacy Park Drive at Old Lee Road for full board approval.
We got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second, Ron Roberts.
Thank you, Ron. So we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this matter? None. Of all the existing board members will cast your vote by saying your name and your position. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Solomon Rana, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Keith Cowart, yes.
I believe chairman's left.
That's okay. We still have a quorum. So based on the existing members that are here, it's 4 unanimous. It passes. Keep going, sir.
Right. Next item is an update on a recently started project. This is one of the 4 intersections that were started this year. The goal was to improve safety and congestion at these intersections. One of those is State Route 166 at Chapel Hill Road. The initial idea was to evaluate the need of adding capacity to the intersection so people can safely turn onto and off from Chapel Hill Road onto State Route 166. We hired a consultant to do a professional analysis and recommend what the state guideline mandated evaluation process would recommend improving at this intersection. So we had KCI as our consultant. They evaluated something called ICE analysis, which is intersection control evaluation. What that does is it runs through all of the intersection control methods and recommends the optimal or top 3 options for you. And in this case, the first recommendation that we got was a roundabout. This would be a single lane roundabout at the intersection. And the only issue with this alternative is while it helps safety, it's great for operations. It's one of the most effective methods of reducing crashes. The cost of roundabout is relatively higher than other alternatives. This remains our alternative number 1 or recommendation number 1. If we were to pursue this option, there would be a task order 2 linked to this design service, and overall the construction cost would be relatively higher. Option 2 in this case was adding signal and a turn lane. This is more traditional approach, would not necessarily warrant any increase in design fee, but it's not significantly less than what it's going to cost us to put a roundabout. And towards the end, I'll give out the numbers so we can make that comparison. This being option 2, option 3 would be adding just the turn lanes without a signal. So the last display that I had showed the turn lanes, and the only difference in alternative 3 and 2 is addition of a traffic signal. In this case, we're looking at heavy volumes where the traffic signal is warranted. So if that's the option that this committee or the board approves, that would be certainly one of the items we can pursue. Looking at the ADT or average daily traffic counts, we're looking at roughly 7,300 vehicles coming off of Chapel Hill, and roughly 5,000 on 166 headed eastbound, and 10,650 on 166 westbound. So we're looking at significant number of traffic volumes in this case. And if we consider the prices relatively or high level speaking, it's going to cost us $2 million to do a single lane roundabout, $1.4 million to do turn lanes with the traffic signals, and $1.1 million just to do the turn lanes without a signal. I'll stop there for any questions, but after that, I'll move on to what exactly would have to change if we were to pursue either one of those alternatives.
All right. We know that this is something that was identified as a priority. You see the need, you see the congestion, you see the convergence that's happening there. And especially in that area, it's going to continue to grow. That we just heard earlier. There's still going to be growth down there along that corridor. And so with that being said, how do we need to go ahead and get ahead of this? Is there a recommendation? I mean, I would just making turn lanes doesn't help us any better. You just improve the turn lane, but you still got congestion. Unless you got a light or something that can keep that, a controlled light, or you have some type of roundabout that you can keep it moving. The goal is to keep it moving, right? Keep it moving. So either light that controls the flow, or the roundabout that has sort of this continuous entry point that's controlled. But just the just a turn lane by itself is, I'm not certain that accomplishes where this area is about to go as it relates to congestion. So I'm not certain. I mean, 3 would not make me move, but the other 2 I'm open to. What are your thoughts? I mean, what would you suggest? I mean, I get the cost. Do we have this in our SPLOST 2022? Would this be part of that, or is this part of the old SPLOST?
Yes, sir. The design is from 2016, and the construction would be from 2022. In my professional recommendation, I think I recommend alternative 1, which is roundabout. I think this project was taken up due to the dire need of the community, and while we're at it, I recommend that we do it right, and I think doing a roundabout would be a great thing for this intersection.
Right, we got a roundabout further down 166, right? So it sounds like in both directions you got these roundabouts. So I think that's obviously a design standard you guys have now been getting to employ, and I say stick with it. To your point, do it right. Do it right.
Yes,
all right, that's all I got.
And if the committee agrees on this, there would be 2 changes for us to pursue the roundabout alternative. The first would be a task order, an additional task order in our design services. This would be in the amount of $116,000. What this would do is help us collect more data for topography, and this time we'll be doing it with a drone. So very excited to see how that turns out. And apparently the new technology fulfills all the federal and state standards. And then the second part of that would be environmental documentation. There is a creek and a culvert that crosses the intersection. So we'll have to do our due diligence and prepare a 404 permit request with the Army Corps. So this change order, or task order 2, pretty much incorporates all of those changes that would support a roundabout design. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. And if not, I would make a motion at the end to accept this task order number 2 in the amount of $116,000.
Yeah, no, duly well framed. And again, I say put it before the full board. This is something that was already on the list, a solution for this area. At our last SPLOST, we now got a new SPLOST, a new funding source. So it means that this project is already on the list at the top. So let's get to work. So go ahead and make your motion.
All right. I make a motion that this committee recommends task order number 2 in the amount of $116,683.31 with KCI Technologies Inc. for full board approval.
All right, you have a motion. Can I get a second, gentlemen?
I have a second for that. I love roundabouts. That's a good location for it and a good solution.
All right, Director Roberts has motioned to second. Any further discussion? With that silence, I'll call a question. All in favor, please state so with voting members, your name and your position. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Suleiman Rana, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Heath Coward, yes.
Okay, thank you. We didn't have that quorum that's about to fall. All right, we got 4-0 unanimous vote, and so the motion carries. Thank you. Keep going, Director.
Yes, sir. Next item is a good news for this committee and the county as a whole. We are at the finish line for our Stuart Mill Road at Reynolds Road interchange project. This started towards the end of last year. Happy to report that we finished this project with final punch list items currently pending. We finished this project under budget and ahead of schedule. So I'd like to thank the team that was involved, and of course the Board of Commissioners and County Administration for their support throughout the project. So in terms of finishing this project off, we are coming in with a savings of $101,000 on the encumbered amount for the contract. Overall, the SPLOST allocation was $2.7 million for the project. The contract encumbered roughly $2.4 million through 3 change orders and everything that was supposed to be done on the site. And by accomplishing everything that the contract covered, and including few more items that we added along the way to maximize value of the project, we can now close this project with roughly $101,000 in savings for our master construction contract. That would be our deductive change order number 4 that I would request this committee to recommend for full board approval. And then there's a second change order, which is in our testing services. So as we have a master construction contract, there's a smaller testing contract that supports various unexpected findings on the site, which was done through NOVA, which is a geotechnical firm. They had an excessive amount of testing, and there's a change order from them in the amount of $15,000. That is an increase to the cost, but overall the project remains under budget, and we would recommend both of these change orders for the next board approval.
Again, something is already on the list, and something we're all anticipating, so let's go ahead and send it for the full board. There's no questions.
Yes, sir. I make a motion that this committee recommends the two change orders associated with Stewart Mill Road at Reynolds Road for full board approval.
All right, we got a motion.
Second. Heath Cowart.
Thank you, Director Coward. So we got a motion by Director Rana. Heath Coward made the second. No further questions. We're gonna go ahead and call it. Those who are in favor say yes. Those who say no. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Solomon Rana, yes.
Heath Cowart, yes.
All right, 4-0 unanimous passage of this. I'll move it to the full board of commissioners. Director Rana, next one.
Yes, sir. Next item is an intergovernmental agreement between Douglas County and Georgia Department of Transportation in connection with the Lee Road widening phase 2 that is currently under construction. This project started more towards 2020s, and the construction on this project actually started more towards the end of last year. We are requesting an extension of another 12 months for this intergovernmental agreement, so we can have the time we need to finish this project.
Is it going to take another year, or you just want another year? What's the
Our current expectation is that it would take at least one more year.
So all the way to the end of 2024 or 2025?
Yes, that's where this contract would take us. Our goal is to finish it somewhere from early to mid fall of next year.
Okay, so this is going to take us, so by the end, this time next year, we think that this will be done, lined and everything, it'll be open.
Yes, sir.
All right, no problem. It is what it is. And what was the original goal?
The original goal was end of this year, but that couldn't materialize because we never started in the original time frame. We had to sit tight, get the contracts worked out. Of course, we had to bid this project twice, and then the delays from the utility company.
Yeah, no, we want to make it. Okay, got it. Duly noted. I want to make sure we set the public's expectation. Thank you for the update. So go ahead and call a question on this. Just send it straight to the local administration.
I make a motion that we recommend a time extension in Lee Road widening phase 2 contract with Georgia Department of Transportation for full board approval.
Need a second? You have the motion. I'll second it. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None? All right. Again, going on the room for the voting members, please cast your ballot with your name and your position. Kelly Robinson, yes.
Solomon Rana, yes.
Ron Roberts, yes.
Heath Cowart, yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. 4-0 unanimous passage. Keep moving.
Next item is...
I just got to go in a few minutes, so keep us going. Keep
yes,
going.
we'll wrap it up. The next item is New Manchester High School Sidewalk Project. We completed design right-of-way acquisitions on this project and advertised this project for construction. We received roughly 8 responses, and we've chosen the Corbett Group to be the most responsive and the lowest bidder, even though there were lower bids, but they weren't responsive to our requirements. So Corbett Group was ranked number 3 in price, but they provided all the documentation that were needed for them to qualify as a responsive bidder. Their bid was in the amount of $808,620, and this covers the 0.75 miles of sidewalk construction connecting New Manchester High School sidewalk to the Boundary Waters Park with a signal and an alignment transition in midway of the project.
There's going to be sidewalks on both sides with the crossover right in the middle of the light. Is that what I'm hearing? Right.
Yes, sir. So a sidewalk on one side until the mid of the project, and then transition to the other side of the road as you get closer to the school,
Yep.
and then connects you to the school.
Got it. I understand. Going back the other way. No, I understand what you're saying. All right, got it. Well, again, put it before the board. It's back to the world, but we think the process was very clean. You guys are comfortable. You had all these bids that came in. It was competitive, and it was transparent. And so we're gonna move to the next phase. The public needs this. The children need this. We know this is a very good project for the community. So go ahead and make your motion, sir.
Right, I make a motion that this committee recommends the contract with the Corbett Group and Nova in the amounts of $808,000, $620, and $36.50 for full board approval.
All right, we got the motion by Director Rana. I'll second it. Kelly Robinson, any further question? I'll call the question. All who in favor say yes with your name and your position. Kelly Robinson votes yes.
Solomon, yes.
Roberts, yes.
Keith Cowart, yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. 4-0 unanimous passage. All right, keep going.
Thank you. The next two items were very critical, and they are also time sensitive. The first one is Spine Road. We had bid opening yesterday. We don't have all the documents and everything we needed for bid tabulations. Of course, this is time sensitive. We're on the clock, but we definitely want to do it right, and we want to take our time and evaluate all the bids carefully before recommending the most optimal option for the county. So therefore, we wouldn't be able to entertain that bid in this committee, but our goal is to have that on the agenda for board's approval on November 1st, which is the first meeting of next month. And for us to do so, there's one option is to have a special call meeting sometime between now and the next board meeting. Or if it's the will of the committee, we can hold this off until our next committee meeting and then put it up at the subsequent board meeting. So I'd like to hear from you, committee chair, on what you think is best.
All right, so again, is there some type of state regulation says that the committee has to vote on this? Because I would lean toward administrative concurrence and go straight to the board at our next meeting. The meetings are the 30th and 31st. And at that way, that keeps you on schedule. We are already bound by our board with this economic development project, so we are aware. Since it's time sensitive, I'd rather just send it straight to the board through administrative concurrence, so it comes out us coming back together. But that would be my
understood, and that would certainly be helpful timeline wise. So I'll just take this. I think with the committee's been briefed on the item. Once we have a final bid tabulation, we'll just put it up for board approval.
Just for the record, is there any objections from the committee members from administrative concurrence to send it straight to the board of commissioners? If no,
No, sir.
All right.
No, sir.
I hear no objections. Let it be said. Move forward.
Thank you. The last item I had is our annual resurfacing list, which is supported by SPLOST and LMIC dollars. That too, I had marked it down as a special call meeting because we're yet to finalize District 4 roads. Everything else has been finalized, and we want to give Commissioner Alvarez all the time he needs to be comfortable with the list, and we're not in such a time crunch on this one. So I think we can hold off on this until our next committee meeting and put it up for board approval in the first meeting of December.
Do we have a board meeting in December, guys? Be careful with that. I don't know if we have one.
There would be one.
Yeah, that last meeting, which we consider. Yeah, no, because I know there's not a second one. You're right. So you want the last meeting of the year? Okay. I have no problem with it. So we'll just no action on this right now. Then.
No action. We'll just table it for now.
Okay.
All right. That's all I had, sir.
All right. Recently I was at Chestnut Hills an HOA meeting. We brought the putting a light back there at Pope and Beaumar. You got any insight on that? Can you help me frame that? There's been like a lot of actions, they said, back there on the backside that runs parallel to Fairburn Road, where they're building this new 500 unit apartment complex behind both schools. Was it Chestnut Hills Middle School, and what's the other one? Mount Carmel Elementary and Chestnut Hills Middle. Can you talk to us about that a little bit? Can we put that on the list for consideration to look at?
Yes, sir. We can certainly run a signal warrant analysis. I was a little, I would need some clarification on the exact location because Pope Road at Beaumar Road, that is definitely one of the heavily used intersections. And then there's, I believe the concern you heard was from the Chestnut Meadows Drive.
Yes.
And if that is exactly the location, we can certainly run a warrant and see what the analysis come out to be.
I know you're going to do one already on the Pope Road side, but I'm just going, can you add this to the list as well, please?
Yes, sir. We'll look at both.
All right. Last thing is Thornton Road resurfacing. Thank you, State GDOT for SR6. How far along are we with that? Sulemana, do we have to do anything regarding that? Do we have to pay for striping if they resurface? Was this conditional, or they just did it on their own?
No, so this was done totally by the state, and I believe their timeline was somewhere between last month to mid or end of this month, where they would be finished. So they are moving at a very fast speed. I don't have the exact date, but they should be very close to wrapping up if they haven't finished already. So that and Fairburn, I think both are on aggressive timelines to be resurfaced.
Yeah, I guess because it's getting cooler now. And the $34 million that they sort of said that they were going to put for rapid lanes, what happened to that money?
So the $35 million were dedicated to a new project called Truck Friendly Lanes. Of course, this was, I think, phase 2, or not a phase 2, a pre-existing condition or a pre-existing project. The concept report of this specific project included a recommendation of no build. So what that means is the project is not going to move forward. The $35 million actually go back to ARC, just how the process works. But GDOT and ARC are both aware of the local efforts that went behind securing that funding. And we are committed to finding a solution where we can still use most of those dollars locally here in Douglas County. We have listed a number of smaller projects. We've given them to Georgia Department of Transportation for their consideration, where the money could be better used if they think it's no build for truck friendly lanes. That is still in works, and we're doing our best to capitalize on that funding. But as of right now, truck friendly lanes are not coming in Thornton Road. Yeah, okay, gotcha. So we got membership on ATL and ARC out of Douglas. That sounds like hopefully they're still advocating for us down there in those meetings. I'm sure you attend them from time to time. So keep the work up. Thank you. Yes, sir. We have our bi-weekly meetings in TCC, and our chairmen were sworn in the TAQC meeting last month. So and we also have tip solicitation coming up next year. So ARC coordination will be pivotal to our future here.
Awesome. All right, that's all I got right now. Is there anything else that needs to come before this committee? Not to rush you guys, but I do have to bounce. Director Cowher, are you okay?
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
All right, Director Roberts, are we good?
Yes, sir. I'm very good. See you shortly.
Yep, Director Rana, we're good?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, if nothing else needs to come before this October 17, 2023 Transportation Committee of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, let this committee meeting stand adjourned.